Hey guys, good to see you. Just a share here. I just got out of a discussion with a client. I just received what I believe to be a 99.9% confirmation that we just prevailed on initial. Now the initial has been lengthy. The long waits we're going through that a lot of you are familiar with. Now I get the sense that we have prevailed. However, we have not prevailed on the alleged onset date that I know my client was disabled as of, and it was after his work stoppage date, at or after, right in that time period. And I was starting the case at that time and was involved at that time. But I can tell from various indicators that while I'm pretty sure we won, I don't get the sense that we won back to the date that we alleged. And this can really tick off claimants. I mean, I've seen some very unjustified, and lately I've been thinking I see them on recon, unjustified changes, the determined disability dates. They call it the EOD, established onset date, is different than the alleged onset date, AOD, that the claimant alleged. And a lot of those I don't think are just. And then there's discussions about appealing them or not appealing them and the risks and the pros and the cons with regard to that. I think we have a different video on that. But in this case, and I see this a lot. So I bring it up mostly for pro se people, but anyone else who cares to listen. When I got involved in this case, it was clear to me from my in-depth conversation with the claimant that the claimant was, in fact, certainly disabled. But it was one of those cases where the evidence was going to be lacking, because while there was evidence in the past of severe damage that generally, well, sometimes I should take that back. Sometimes people do recover. Think of something along a TBI, right? Sometimes people bounce back quite well. Well, and I suppose quite well relative to when they have their brain really damaged. The healing process takes place, but the extent to which that healing process does take place. And other times you don't see that great improvement. So in this case, the person hadn't been treating for so long because there was nothing really to treat for at that point. It was in their life at the time because there was not going to be improvement per se. And there was financial struggles and all that kind of stuff. But it was really, really important that they had to, and again, treat for all little things, not just that big thing. Okay. And I drill that home all the time. I'm really nag about it, but in this case, I think, when I got on board, I said, you have to start treating for blah, 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 and blah. You have to, even if it's not going to cure it, even if it's not even going to help it, because you have no proof that there is a current issue. You have proof that there was an issue 2 years ago, but then there's no current proof. And remember, treatment, when I mean treatment, that could be mere monitoring, getting updated diagnostics, continuing to complain to the doctor. So every few months, it's clear that there's still stuff going on. It'll show up in the records more likely if you let him know about it quite loudly, him or her. So if you don't go to the doctor because there's nothing they can do to cure it or make it feel better, isn't really the point. I mean, I know that's the point for what you really want, but if you're going to have a case, you still have to do those things to prove your case, even if they're not going to help you on the medical side. So it's two totally different functions that you'd be doing it for. And the legal one still exists, even if the medical one isn't going to help you. So going back to this case, and which is why I bring it up, I believe we won. I have a very strong feeling we did not win back to when we said the onset date was, because of that lack of existing evidence at that time. Probably within 6-8 months of that date, we probably have clinched. But, that could be several $1,000s that is no longer available or going to be made available to this winning claimant because that onset date isn't going to pan out. So when you are And it's kind of like you can't really, I was going to say, when you're thinking of filing, make sure you get all the treatment first. That's obviously not part of the answer is like, people when they don't apply, it's because they don't plan to at that time. And it's not until they do. But so for the people that do know they're going to be applying and still have not started aggressively treating, start yesterday. Get your referrals from your primary, do whatever you have to do. If you don't need referrals, you start calling all those specialists that would be related to your problem. Hopefully you have a lawyer or a non-attorney rep who's going to tell you what you should be, getting followed upon based on your discussions with them about what your medical complaints are to him or her. But that's what you got to do, because the longer you wait to do that, you're either going to be denied the whole time. You're never going to prevail, or you're going to prevail eventually because more stuff goes wrong, and then you're forced to go to a doctor because it's stuff that actually now needs to be addressed as opposed to should be. And you're going to win at a much later date and lose a lot of what would have been back benefits had you made that, when you stop working full-time because of medical problems, even if you're working part-time, in my nagging opinion, I think that's got to be when you start making treatment and follow-up your full-time job. And when I mean full-time, I don't mean 40 hours a week. I mean your primary focus of all your daily activities is getting that done if you plan on having a case. It's just something you have to do. Evidence doesn't grow on trees. It's not unicorn land where people just imagine it into being. You have to go get it. You have to be diligent. You have to be repetitive. You have to go frequently. And you have to be very vocal about what's going on a regular basis, every visit you go, not just once. I told them last year about my back. Well, okay, so one day last year you had pain in your back. That's what a judge is going to see. That's what I would see. So, guys, you really have to be very proactive. All right, enough nagging. But anyway, it was a point. I'm very happy for my client. It's still a win, and I'm glad for them. And I have a feeling we won't be appealing. I don't think I would necessarily recommend it. In fact, I probably won't. But it's up to them. But so I'm very happy about it. But I just wanted to bring up this point because, the back benefits to you can make a difference between paying off bills you haven't been able to pay, getting a nest egg, perhaps to buy a home, pay down a home. Now that you're going to be on reduced income, presumably from what you used to be back when you were working, every 1,000 counts, right? All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.